On Monday, the twice-impeached criminally convicted felon-in-chief who never served a day in the military signed multiple executive orders that could have a significant consequence on our armed services. These directives call for the extensive changes in military affecting troops who are discharged years ago for COVID-19 during the COVID-19 vaccine mandates, eliminating policies and programs that deal with race, gender, sex, and other things, quote unquote, for merit, and also an executive order restoring America's fighting force eliminates race-based and sex-based discrimination within the armed forces for the United States. Trump also claimed that the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion had corrupted the military, and stated that this approach would no longer be in effect during his administration. His executive order reinstated a policy from his first term banning transgender individuals from serving in the military. This order rescinds a measure put in place by former President Biden, which allowed transgender people to enlist and receive health coverage for gender-affirming care. On Tuesday, two national LGBTQ IAPK plus advocacy groups filed a federal lawsuit challenging the executive order, and on behalf of 6 active duty transgender members and 2 prospective service members, the group argued that the ban violates the Equal Protection Clause of the Fifth Amendment. So look, I want to bring you all back in here because let's think about what he is doing. When they say that we are getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, he's not saying for those frontline troops. Black folks, y'all can still be in the infantry. Latinos, y'all can still, go out there and look for the landmines and get shot with the bullets. But when it comes to the leadership of these organizations, he wants it to be a 1950s version of the United States military, where you have the madmen at the top and the black and brown people at the bottom with no chance of advancing. And even on this order with regards to transgender individuals, as I said at the top of the show, these same laws, if they're allowed to stand to discriminate against transgender people today, can be used to discriminate against African Americans tomorrow. Mustafa, what do you think is the impetus behind these things?
Well, first of all, I'm thinking about the words of Dr. King when he said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's meant to all the folks who often forget, that when we allow one group to be attacked, then there's a next and a next and a next that they are coming for. So we should just be mindful of that. The game that they're playing it is really one about making sure that all the amazing gifts, especially that Black folks have and others, are not brought forward in leadership. We understand that when you have diverse leadership, you have a stronger organization. Whether we're talking about a nonprofit, we're talking about a corporation, or we're talking about the military. When we look at, just the other day, so many of us were making sure that we were lifting up the Tuskegee Airmen, making sure that people who didn't know about not only how amazing they were, as Air Force pilots and everyone else who helped to support that, but that their story was often, kind of hidden, if you will. And that is because they didn't want folks to know, how amazing they were, and also, how they were just excellent at what they did. So when you're able to strip away the ability for folks to be able to move up through the ranks, then you can also bring in those old adages that they're not smart enough or that they don't have the technical skills that are so critical for these types of positions. So the game is to break down the civil rights infrastructure, to break down diversity, equity, inclusion infrastructure. And then we should also call out the fact that even though DEI is so incredibly important, that we haven't always been the beneficiaries of that. We know that white women, in many instances, have been able to ride that horse to the top in many organizations. By no means do I not want folks to be able to have, an equal opportunity to be able to be successful. But we know that we are the ones who have carried the burden. We're the ones, who had to blaze these trails. And we know that we also are the ones who should be able to reap the benefits of everything that we put into this.
And Pastor, on that same point, the Republicans who were able to properly demonize DEI, CRT, the same way they did BLM. If you make something an acronym, it makes it scary to people who don't know what's going on. And it's hard to say I'm against diversity I'm against equity, I'm against inclusion, but it's easy to say the DEI means did not earn it and brand it that way. Why do you think so many people still right now do not understand that these programs are in large part what was able to help build the black middle class, build our officer corps and our military, build these corporations up where they actually have black folks in the front door and not just sitting by the door taking tickets, taking coats? Why have we lost the messaging war on this?
Well, I think you already nailed it, right? We lost the messaging war on it in the first place. One, because we did not have a significant enough investment in media. Roland Martin talks about that on a regular basis, particularly black media. We didn't have a response to the thousands of hours that conservatives have put into their own media infrastructure. That's number one. But then number two, it's so easy to divide us. It is extremely easy to divide us. And so there are people who are going to support Donald Trump because this particular order is targeting the transgender community. And what we have seen throughout history is what we're seeing right now is if you can find a group that can get people to hate them, then it doesn't matter how far down the totem pole that they are. If you can get black people to oppose this or to support this, rather, because it's a transgender community, then it becomes eminently easier for them to do that to us. Just like if you can get black folks to start supporting ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and start calling the snitch line and getting that bounty because they despise immigrants all of a sudden. It becomes eminently easier for them to do that to us on the backside. And Donald Trump knows this. If they're intelligent about anything else, they are extremely aware of how to divide and conquer. And we're living in that reality right now.
And before we go to break, Dr. Walker, talk about a little bit how they were able to separate black folks from these other minority groups. We saw this in Chicago where you had black folks calling the cops on Latinos who they thought might be illegal. You have black people supporting the anti-trans ban, saying, well, I don't like transgenders, but not understanding that these same things will affect us directly.
Yeah, I think that, there's a lot of, we talked about misinformation, right? Propaganda war. We've lost the propaganda war. And as it relates to the black community, some of the examples you provided is a lot of this misinformation, propaganda has, and we know going back from the first Trump campaign, we know that Russia and we have to talk about this in terms of how they purposely spread that, misinformation in the black community, and that continued through the Biden and then in the next election after the Biden, first Biden administration. So the black community, in terms of all this misinformation that is spread throughout our community regarding groups with similar challenging experiences, have bought into drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, as we say in the black community, but to our own detriment. And so the idea historically, when it comes to civil rights, fighting for civil rights meant that everyone has to kind of sit at the table. And when you bring constituents together, from the Latino community, Asian American, Pacific Islander community, et cetera, and black community together, we know we're more likely to be successful overall. Right. But you have an erosion of that, and now we're in the position we're in today.
And look, I tell people that if you take rights away from one group, ain't but so long till it's going to come back to you.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $4.8 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.